Let's look at a short history of wireless standards. Mobile communication devices came out not too long ago, and we had to have standards for them so they could communicate with each other, even though they're made by different companies. We have standards for mobile terminals, mobile services, maritime communications, radio communications, whether they're microwave, HF, VHF, or UHF. All of them follow some sets of standards so that we can have communication between different groups of interested people. What happens with standards is something like what economists call S-curves. Each of these curves looks a little bit like the letter S, stretched out in one dimension or another. As new standards come along, we're able to increase the performance of the processes we have on the devices currently available. These standards will need revision when the technology improves. We're able to use the spectrum a little better as a result of improvements from the engineers. Standards are not forever and always. What's a standard today may not be a very good standard 3 years from now. That's why economists like open standards, because open standards compete with one another. Let the best standard win. This is true of Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi started out as 802.11b. 802.11b is the number of a specific published standard. Wi-Fi 802.11b soon became GN 802.11. We've gone through more than 60 changes to the original Wi-Fi standard. That's more than 60 updated backward compatible standards. Who has benefited from all these open and voluntary standards? Every one of us, you and I, the companies that make the wireless routers, the companies that make the receivers that go in our computers and smartphones. All of us are able to communicate with one another. The standard, in most cases, has been backward compatible, so if you had a machine that met the original 802.11b standard, it could probably still communicate with a device using one of the more recent Wi-Fi updated standards. Originally, Wi-Fi was not the only wireless standard for short-range communication. In the early days of Wi-Fi, the home RF standard was a competing standard. Nobody today talks about home RF. It lost the competition. We could think of these as disruptive technologies. The new standard is a disruptive technology. We keep increasing performance by having a different set of S-curves that's moved to the right and moved up in terms of performance. We have technological life cycles. I'm relatively certain that if we keep using voluntary standards, we will still all be able to communicate wirelessly with each other, send documents back and forth, and watch streaming video to our heart's content.